From the Brewers drive-through tailgates, the parking lots at American Family Field, Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, joined by the manager of your Milwaukee Brewers, Pat Murphy. Pat, thanks so much for the time, bud.
It's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure to be here. It's great to see all these fans come out. It's kind of amazing, to be quite honest with you.
A year ago today, do you think you'd be sitting in a parking lot celebrating another Brewers playoff appearance?
I don't think that far ahead. But, hey, man, I'm pretty confident that the Brewers have just done a great job of bringing in the right people. You know, it's not just about our experience or talent. It's just the right people, and I love this group. This is a group that, against all odds, they rise to the occasion. So that's been fun.
Coach, we had Robin on earlier in the show, and I asked him a question. I said, how important is it to get that bye in the first round? And I was kind of surprised by his answer. He said, not at all.
Right.
He said, baseball is meant to be played every day. Do you share that same sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, the first blush is you want to get as high in the seating as you can because it is advantageous. You don't play as many games. Not as many things have to go right. And with our young team and our inexperience and the injuries we've endured and the people we're going to be missing for the playoffs, I mean, yeah, less games would be better. But at the same time, Robin is exactly right. This game's played every day. Our guys get in a rhythm. And when you get in that right rhythm, you know, good things happen.
I know there's a big gap between college baseball and Major League Baseball, but because of the success that you had at the collegiate level, you mentioned how young you are. Do you think that has really helped you kind of connect and help this team grow?
I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure what I've done, but I know, you know, I've dealt with college guys for a lot of years, but I've been out of the college game since 2009 was the last season. So, you know, that's 15 years doing this. And, yeah, I mean, I think it's just about people. You know, like some of us relate to younger people, some of us don't. I don't know that I do, to be quite honest with you. They drive me freaking crazy, if you want to be honest with you, their mindset. But, I mean, everybody relates to love, you know what I mean? And everybody relates to things like that. And I think we just respect them, you love them, and then you're tough on them, you know, and you let them know the truth. You speak the truth to them, and who cares if they like you? You know, I got one of these newfangled phones, you know what I mean? I got a whole bunch of contacts. I don't need any more contacts in there, you know what I mean? I don't need friends. And it's like, you know, let's just tell them the truth. And I think they respond to that because it's about their career. And these young guys have just been amazing. And our older leadership group, you know, Yelich and Miley and Willie Adames and Freddie Peralta, those guys, they're at the core of this whole thing. They've created that culture that is really special.
Coach, I come from a football background, and I'll go back to '93.
Me too.
He can't. I'll be honest with you, Pat. Like, he can't. I try to explain to him like a baseball mentality versus football mentality. He just gets lost.
Yeah, I do get lost.
He just can't quite figure it out.
It's all right.
So, Coach, I go back to '93, and you always hear in the NFL how the game speeds up in the playoffs. And I can tell you, as a young player, you don't really believe it until you get into it, and then you realize, oh, it really does speed up. In baseball, do you have to convey anything to the younger players, the difference between the regular season and the playoffs?
You know, I think you let their fellow teammates do that. You know what I mean? The guys that have been there. And I think you refer to, you know, like, hey, how to create the poise that you need, you know, how to control your emotions, how to control your breathing, how to understand that it is just the same game. Having more at stake doesn't mean you have to try to do more. I think when you just talk about it and relate to it, you know, heart to heart, I think that helps. You know, if you try to force feed something, it comes off as I think non-genuine and like, hey, they're trying real hard to force something. I think you let it happen a little bit. And our older guys, they'll be in there talking to our guys, and I think that'll be a real key.
Pat, certainly appreciate the time. I know you're a busy man this morning. Go grab yourself a breakfast brat and, you know, keep handing out those flags to everybody.
I appreciate it, man. Great. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat Murphy, Brewers manager, joining us here, all part of the Brewers tailgates that's going on here. The drive-through tailgate opportunity with a QR code to, get access to season to tickets for the playoffs and the first couple of games there. Again, again, like I said, they're handing out the brat. I've got mine here. I'm going to be eating soon here. Little breakfast brat, T-shirts, flags, the whole 9 yards. They've got a DJ out here, Chew. So many cool things that are happening. The Hall of Famer Robin Yount here joining us on Jen, Gabe and Chewy. Good morning, Robin.
Yeah, good morning. It's good to be here.
Unbelievable that – are you shocked that this amount of people are coming through before the sun comes up to eat a brat this early?
I am not. This is Milwaukee. Brats in the morning, playoffs ahead of us. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest. You know, this is why we love Milwaukee. You know, the enthusiasm for for what we got coming up, and I'm as excited as they are. Although I feel like I should be in a tree stand or something this early in the morning. but no, this is great. I mean, like I said, it's not surprising.
Robin, how you doing? Chewy here.
Hey, Chewy.
How you doing? How important is it for them to get that first round bye?
I think it's very unimportant, actually. If it was me, I'd rather not have it. Baseball is meant to be played every day, and if you notice the playoffs last year, all the division winners that had byes all lost in the first round. Well, I think Houston might have got through the first round and lost in the second. I don't really see it as an advantage to get that first round bye. Obviously, it means the first playoff round against the wild card you got to win, but I still think you're better off playing than sitting.
Talking with Robin Yount, Brewers pep rally, drive-through pep rally going on, swing by in the parking lots at American Family Field. Jackson Chourio has been so good this year, and there are only a handful of people that truly understand what he's going through. You're one of them, playing at that young of an age at in Major League Baseball. How difficult is it to do what he has done this year?
Well, he's in a totally different situation than I was. You know, the Brewers have been competitive for a while now. And I think when the season starts nowadays, you're realistically thinking about, making the playoffs. And when I started, we didn't even consider being in playoffs at that time. I was that 18-year-old kid they could throw out there and see what happens, because it was much more difficult to win a division back then. Plus, we didn't have the talent to win a division in those days, in the early 70s. But he has proven that, he's far and above beyond where I was at that same age. And he's going to get an opportunity to show a lot of people that when he gets into the playoffs. His game is far more mature than mine was, and he seems like, I met him yesterday for the first time, he seems like the whole major league thing doesn't affect him all that much. Younger players today in all sports, it just seems like they come up with this with this confidence from, I don't know where it comes from, because I know I sure didn't have it, but they come up ready to go and think they're ready to take on the world, and I don't think that Jackson feels any different. He's going to do just fine.
Robin, I want to bring you back to 1982, because this whole year we talked about expectations for this team and how the national pundits got it so wrong. No one was picking the Brewers to do anything.
Imagine that.
Yeah. What was the expectations back in 1982 for that team?
Well, we expected to compete, because the year before it was our first round of playoffs. We had never had a playoff round in as a Brewer team before 81, and when we finally experienced that playoff series with the Yankees, it was the first time we went to spring training honestly believing we should be able to get a playoff spot in those days if we played the way we were capable of. So in saying that, we had a good feeling going into that year.
Talking with Robin Yount, all part of the Brewers drive-through pep rally happening at American Family Field. Come on by, get your brat, get your flag, get your QR code to get early access to postseason tickets. You mentioned 1982, so let's talk about the documentary that is out right now in Marcus Theaters. What was it like to participate, and what did you think of the final product?
It's very challenging for me to watch. I saw it in its early stage, and obviously it brought back a lot of great memories, but it also, the ending is heartbreaking. It's hard. So I was involved in my part of it, and I'm glad it's over.
Robin, you hear in football all the time that when you get to the playoffs, the game speeds up. And I go back to 93 when I was a youngster and we made the playoffs. As a young guy, you really don't believe it until you're in it and you figure it out. What's different for a young player between the regular season and the playoffs when it comes to baseball?
Well, I think everything is just amped up. It's, during the regular season, your hometown is focused on you. When you make the playoffs, the whole country's focused on you. So the stakes are much higher, And let's face it, the biggest challenge the Brewers are going to have is they have not had to play real meaningful games. They've had such a good season, and they've been so far ahead for a long time now. That's the challenge, I think, is getting, from the regular season games that you didn't really have to play your way into it. You've just, 162 games, you would think somewhere along the line you'd have big games. And I'm sure they felt that for certain series. But when you're going down the stretch in a pennant race is usually the start of feeling some playoff pressure. And we really haven't experienced much of that. So hopefully they can turn it up. We've got some guys on the team that have played in the playoffs because we're making the playoffs regularly now. Seems like more often, way more often than when I played. But it'll be a chance. That first game, I guarantee you, there'll be nerves, but they'll be on both sides.
Robin, when we talk about the rule changes in baseball, how beneficial have they been to the Brewers? Because I feel without the rule changes and allowing for a little more aggressiveness on the base paths, I don't know if this team it's good. I don't know if it's as successful because of how aggressive and how much Murph really lets these guys run.
Well, I think what you're seeing is the last couple of years, we're starting to play baseball again. And I don't mean just the Brewers. I think the overall game itself, it seemed like for the last number of years, it's been a lot of home run derby going on, and, where strikeouts weren't a big deal. And, it was as long as you hit your home runs. And I think we were putting a pretty boring product out there, in my opinion. But what I've watched the last couple of years, it looks like the game is coming back to playing baseball. You're doing all the things that it takes to win games instead of just standing around waiting for home runs. And for me, that's the greatest thing that I think can happen, because I just think the game was getting sidetracked there with all the home runs or the focus on home runs. And now, it's much more entertaining in my mind, and fortunately the Brewers are one of the teams that plays that way.
Robin, do you think all the rule changes has made the game better?
I don't know. I don't know if they had any, they've sped up the pitchers. I know that, but I don't know if it was the rule changes. We were playing this kind of game before those rules, so I think the game will take care of itself. We don't need. It's worked for 100 and some odd years this way. I don't know that making a base bigger is going to change the way the game's played. It's kind of, some of it's a little silly in my mind, but you know what? The game to me looks like it's much better brand of baseball.
I know you're close with 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀. What has he meant? Because I always think anytime they have these big moments, whether it's 20 years ago when this stadium was built and now all the success that they've had, what has Bud meant to the city of Milwaukee in baseball?
Well, he is the Brewers. He brought the Brewers back to Milwaukee. not back. They weren't, obviously they were the Braves originally, but he got baseball back to Milwaukee, I should say. Maybe somebody else might have done it, but he was determined when the Braves left to someday get a team back in Milwaukee, and he's the one that stepped up and did it. And obviously, it's worked tremendously. The city, without baseball, I don't think it wouldn't be the same. And you can credit him for bringing it back.
Will you and the guys you played with share in this? Because I go back, Robin, to '96 when we were playing in Super Bowl 31, and Ray Nitschke was around, and Jerry Kramer, and Bart Starr, and they were there, telling us how big it would be to win a Super Bowl. Do you and the guys you played with kind of share in that same sentiment?
Absolutely. Our numbers getting up there pretty high since when the Brewers have not won a World Series yet. We need a world championship here in Milwaukee. I'd like to see it before I'm gone. So I hope the time is now, because we've waited long enough.
Robin, thank you so much for the time. Thanks for coming out to this thing.
Yeah, how about it?
Like you said, I mean, usually this early in the morning you're probably in a tree stand, but instead you're in a parking lot handing out T-shirts, handing out brats, man.
Yeah, but this is Milwaukee. This is it. The people are excited. Best fans you'd ever want to, play in front of, and they're real, and this proves it.